Let me tell you something, learning anything fast isn't about shortcuts, it's about strategy. It's about knowing the right approach to take, the right mindset to adopt, and the right actions to execute. There's no magic trick, no one-size-fits-all formula, but I'll tell you this, if you apply the right principles, you can speed up your learning curve and get results that will blow your mind. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter, making every minute count, and pushing yourself to be better than you were yesterday. First off, you need to develop the right mindset. You have to understand that your brain is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you challenge it, the more you stretch its limits. So, if you're walking into something new and you already have the attitude that it's too hard, or that you're not capable of mastering it, you're setting yourself up for failure. The mind will follow the body, and if you tell yourself you can't do something, guess what? You're right. But if you walk into that challenge with confidence, with the belief that you can learn this, that you are more than capable of picking up new skills, then you're halfway there. The hardest part of learning something fast is convincing yourself that you can do it, that you are the one who is in control of your progress. But here's the thing, belief alone isn't enough. You need to take deliberate action. You need to break the learning process into bite-sized, manageable pieces. It's easy to look at the big picture and get overwhelmed. You see the end goal, and you think it's impossible to get there. But if you break it down step by step, piece by piece, it becomes manageable. You start focusing on one small task at a time. You start to learn the foundational concepts, and once you get those down, everything else becomes easier. You build on what you've learned, stacking those small wins on top of each other until one day you realize that you've mastered something you once thought was out of your reach. And listen to me, practice makes perfect, but not just any practice. I'm talking about focused, deliberate practice. This is where the real growth happens. You can't just go through the motions and expect to get better. You need to push yourself, find the areas where you're struggling, and work through those challenges. Deliberate practice means you're constantly testing yourself, constantly getting out of your comfort zone. It's not about being perfect every time, it's about being better each time. Each time you practice, you're adding a layer of knowledge, you're correcting mistakes, and you're improving on your weaknesses. When you push yourself past the point of comfort, that's when the growth happens. It's uncomfortable, it's hard, but it's also where the magic lies. Now, let me give you a key piece of advice: teach what you learn. That's right, teach it. The best way to truly master something fast is to teach it to someone else. When you teach, you're forced to understand the material on a deeper level, to break it down into simpler concepts, to communicate it clearly. You'll quickly realize where your own gaps are. You can't just memorize something and expect to retain it. You have to internalize it, understand it from every angle. And the best way to do that is to teach, whether it's explaining it to a friend, writing about it, or even recording yourself. Teaching forces you to fully comprehend the subject. It's one of the most effective ways to learn fast because it solidifies the information in your mind. But here's the kicker: don't just memorize. We've all been there, cramming for a test or trying to learn something by rote, thinking that if we just repeat it enough, we'll get it. But real learning goes beyond memorization. Real learning is about understanding the why behind the what. When you understand the principles, the logic, the reasoning behind the material, you can apply it in any context. You don't just know the facts, you know how to use them. That's how you learn fast, by understanding the underlying principles and applying them. When you focus on mastering the core concepts, the rest falls into place much more easily. Another thing you need to do is embrace failure. I know you don't want to hear it. Nobody likes failing, but it's essential to the learning process. Failure isn't a roadblock, it's a lesson. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn, to improve, to fine-tune your skills. Don't fear failure, embrace it. Every time you fail, you're getting one step closer to success. The more you fail, the more you learn what works and what doesn't. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. So don't avoid mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, and keep moving forward. Finally, the key to learning anything fast is consistency. It's not about cramming all at once or trying to learn everything in one sitting. It's about showing up every day, putting in the work, and making progress little by little. Even if it's just a few minutes a day, consistency compounds. You build momentum, and before you know it, you're on your way to mastering something you never thought possible. The key is to stay committed. Keep showing up, keep learning, keep pushing. The truth is, learning fast is about knowing the right strategies and being disciplined enough to follow through. It's about having the right mindset, breaking things down into manageable steps, practicing with focus, teaching what you've learned, understanding the core concepts, embracing failure, and staying consistent. If you do all of that, you can learn anything fast. It's not easy, but it's possible. So go ahead, start now. Don't wait. Get out there and start mastering something today. You've got what it takes. The foundation of learning anything fast is the mindset you bring to the table. You have to start with the belief that you can learn anything, that the potential is already within you. If you approach learning with the assumption that you're incapable of mastering something, then you've already set yourself up for failure. But if you approach it with the confidence that you can learn and adapt, then you are halfway there. The first step is believing in yourself. The human brain is incredibly powerful, and it can adapt to new challenges when you give it the right conditions. You need to cultivate the mindset that challenges are opportunities to grow, not obstacles to your success. The power of mindset can't be overstated. When you have the right mindset, you start to see learning differently. It's not a chore, it's an exciting opportunity. The desire to learn becomes intrinsic rather than extrinsic. You're not just learning because you have to, you're learning because you want to. This shift in perspective makes a world of difference. When you're intrinsically motivated, learning becomes enjoyable. It becomes something you look forward to, something that excites you rather than something you dread or procrastinate on. The eagerness to learn will propel you forward and keep you engaged even during the challenging times. Moreover, the right mindset helps you develop resilience. Learning is not always a straight path. There will be times when you struggle, when you fail, when you hit roadblocks. That's where resilience comes in. When you have the mindset that failure is just a stepping stone, it's easier to get back up and keep going. Failure doesn't mean that you're incapable, it simply means that you're one step closer to the solution. With a resilient mindset, you learn to embrace failure as part of the learning process. Instead of seeing it as a setback, you start seeing it as feedback, information about what you need to do next. A growth mindset is also about being open to feedback. Feedback is a crucial component of learning. Whether it's from a teacher, a mentor, or even a peer, constructive criticism helps you grow. But to receive feedback effectively, you need to be open to it. If you have a fixed mindset where you believe your abilities are static, you may shy away from feedback because you'll perceive it as a reflection of your limitations. However, with a growth mindset, you view feedback as a valuable tool to refine your skills. It's not about your worth as a person, it's about improving your abilities. When you cultivate the right mindset, you'll become more receptive to feedback and use it to fuel your improvement. Another important aspect of mindset is discipline. Learning something new, especially when you want to do it quickly, requires discipline. You can't expect to absorb information without putting in the time and effort. Discipline is what keeps you going when things get tough, when the initial excitement fades, and when the process feels tedious. The mindset of discipline means committing to your learning process no matter what. It's about showing up every day, putting in the effort, and pushing through the times when it feels like progress is slow. Consistency is key, and discipline helps you maintain that consistency even when distractions arise or when your motivation wanes. In addition to discipline, the mindset of curiosity plays a significant role in learning fast. Curiosity drives you to explore beyond the surface. It motivates you to ask questions, dig deeper, and seek out understanding rather than just memorizing facts. When you approach learning with curiosity, you start to see connections between ideas, you begin to understand the underlying principles, and you open yourself up to a deeper level of comprehension. It's this curiosity that leads to breakthroughs and discoveries both in learning and in problem solving. A powerful mindset also requires patience. Learning something new, especially at a fast pace, is not something that happens overnight. It takes time, practice, and persistence. With the right mindset, you understand that the process is just as important as the outcome. You recognize that growth doesn't happen instantly and that every small step forward counts. Patience allows you to keep going, even when you don't see immediate results. It helps you maintain a long-term perspective, knowing that the effort you put in now will pay off in the future. Finally, the mindset of perseverance keeps you moving even when the road is difficult. There will be days when you feel like giving up, when things aren't clicking, and when progress seems slow. But with the right mindset, you push through those moments. You know that success is built on perseverance and you keep going. The mindset of perseverance tells you that the effort is always worth it, that the work you're putting in will eventually pay off, even if you can't see the results right away. This mindset of relentless forward momentum is what will carry you through the toughest times in your learning journey. When you set out to learn something new, one of the most effective approaches is breaking it down into manageable steps. Trying to grasp everything at once can overwhelm your mind, leading to frustration and eventually burnout. Instead of attacking the entire subject, take a step back and divide the process into smaller, digestible pieces. This method allows you to focus on one element at a time, giving you the mental clarity to truly understand each component before moving on to the next. Learning is a cumulative process. You need to build a solid foundation, and only when the basics are in place can you move on to more complex concepts. The more you break it down, the more your brain absorbs. It's like learning to build a house. You wouldn't start with the roof. You'd lay down the foundation and build upward from there. Learning, like construction, requires patience, step-by-step precision, and attention to detail. By chunking your learning process into smaller pieces, you begin to focus your attention where it matters most. This approach helps reduce the mental load that often comes with trying to remember too many things at once. When you learn something new, your brain works by encoding information. But if you overload it with too much information, it becomes difficult to process. Smaller chunks of information are easier to digest and store in long-term memory. You can focus on mastering one concept at a time, gaining confidence with each small victory. This incremental progress adds up, and soon you realize that you're not only learning faster, but more effectively. But there's more to it than just breaking things down. When you learn in smaller steps, you're able to engage in repetition, and repetition is the key to retention. When you repeatedly revisit a piece of information, your brain starts to solidify it in your memory. This is how you move knowledge from short-term to long-term memory. Think about learning a song or a speech. If you practice a few lines each day, over time, the lyrics or words begin to stick even without much effort. The same principle applies to any subject. When you break the subject into smaller chunks and keep going over them, the information sinks in, creating stronger neural connections. These connections make it easier to recall what you've learned in the future, whether you need it for a test, an exam, or simply applying the knowledge in real life. And another key aspect of this approach is focusing on the fundamentals. When you break down the material, you can ensure that you fully understand the foundational concepts before moving on to more complex ideas. If you rush through the basics, you might think you're saving time, but you'll actually be hindering your ability to progress later. The foundation is the most important part of the structure. If it's weak, the rest of the learning process will crumble. Mastering the fundamentals early on saves you from wasting time later, as the more advanced concepts will make sense if the basics are in place. Whether it's learning a language, playing an instrument, or studying a new field, the basics are where you should focus your attention first. Build that strong base, and everything else will flow naturally from there. This method of breaking things down also encourages active learning. Instead of passively absorbing information, you're required to engage with it. When you focus on small segments of the subject, you allow yourself to actively work with the material. This can involve applying the concept, discussing it with others, teaching it, or simply experimenting with it on your own. Active learning accelerates the process because it forces you to think critically, make connections, and apply what you've learned. The more you interact with the material, the more you internalize it. When you take the time to break things down and understand each step, you also gain a sense of progress. It's easy to feel stuck if you're overwhelmed with the enormity of the task ahead. But when you break it into smaller chunks, you can measure your progress with each piece you master. This sense of achievement propels you forward, motivating you to keep going, knowing that every small step is bringing you closer to your goal. Achieving small wins along the way provides a sense of accomplishment that builds momentum. This momentum keeps you on track, making the entire process of learning feel more manageable and less intimidating. Finally, the beauty of breaking down learning into steps is that it helps you maintain your focus. When the task at hand is large and vague, your attention tends to wander. It becomes difficult to stay engaged when the end goal seems too distant. But with smaller, well-defined objectives, you know exactly what you're working toward. Your focus sharpens because you can see the immediate goal and know what needs to be done next. Each small task is a mini goal in itself, making it easier to stay committed and consistent. The truth is, learning faster isn't about rushing through the process. It's about breaking it down into pieces, mastering each part, and building on what you know. This method not only allows you to learn efficiently, but also ensures that the knowledge sticks with you for the long haul. When you break things down and focus on the fundamentals, repetition, active learning, and progress, you turn the daunting task of learning into an achievable, even enjoyable journey. By taking it step by step, you'll find that the process becomes smoother, faster, and ultimately more rewarding. When it comes to learning quickly, deliberate practice is one of the most important factors in speeding up the process. Unlike regular practice, where you might just go through the motions, deliberate practice is focused and intentional. It's about identifying the areas where you struggle the most and consciously working to improve them. This approach is what separates the average from the exceptional. You could spend hours doing something and still not improve significantly if you're not being mindful about the way you practice. But when you focus on what needs to be fixed, pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, That's when real progress happens. One key to deliberate practice is feedback. Without feedback, it's almost impossible to improve. You can't know if you're making progress unless someone or something tells you where you're going wrong. It doesn't matter if that feedback comes from a coach, a peer, a mentor, or even your own observation. The critical part is that you're constantly checking in and reassessing your performance. You need to be willing to accept constructive criticism without taking it personally. This type of feedback isn't a reflection of your ability, it's a tool to help you get better. Each piece of feedback is a lesson in what you need to adjust, how you need to tweak your technique or approach. The beauty of deliberate practice is that it encourages you to embrace your weaknesses. You're not just repeating what you're already good at, you're targeting the areas where you're struggling the most. This approach may feel uncomfortable at times, especially when you're forced to confront what you don't know or where you fall short, but it's exactly where growth happens. When you constantly challenge yourself in this way, pushing your limits, you open up a space for development that wouldn't be possible if you stayed in your comfort zone. The discomfort you feel is an indicator that you're on the right path. Deliberate practice also requires focus. It's not enough to just go through the motions while thinking about something else. You need to give your full attention to the task at hand, being conscious of every move you make. This level of focus accelerates learning because you're fully engaged with the material, honing in on the small details that matter. The more you focus, the quicker you identify mistakes, correct them, and refine your technique. Without focus, your efforts become diluted, and it takes much longer to see any improvement. Learning quickly requires you to be present, to shut out distractions, and to immerse yourself fully in the task. Another important aspect of deliberate practice is consistency. One intense session of practice may not be enough to make significant progress, but consistent practice over time compounds. The more regularly you practice, the more ingrained the skills become. But consistency isn't just about showing up every day, it's about showing up with purpose. Each practice session should be aimed at improving specific areas, not just repeating what you already know. Deliberate practice is a long-term commitment to continuous improvement. You might not see drastic changes right away, but over time, these small, consistent efforts add up to significant progress. It's also important to track your progress. Without tracking, it's easy to feel like you're not getting anywhere, but when you look back and see how far you've come, it becomes clear that progress is being made. Tracking your progress can help you stay motivated, especially when things feel slow. Whether it's keeping a journal of your improvements, taking notes on areas that still need work, or measuring your performance with specific metrics, tracking gives you tangible evidence of your growth. It's a reminder that your efforts are not in vain and that every step, no matter how small, is taking you closer to your goal. Another element of deliberate practice is rest. While it might seem counterintuitive, rest is essential to the process. The brain needs time to process what it has learned. When you practice intensely without giving yourself time to rest, you risk burning out, both physically and mentally. Rest allows your brain to consolidate new information, strengthening the neural connections that have been made. By taking breaks and allowing yourself time to recharge, you actually enhance the quality of your practice. Rest is not wasted time, it's part of the cycle of learning, helping you absorb what you've learned and come back stronger. Deliberate practice is a mindset. It's a mindset that says you will not settle for mediocrity, you will not just do what's easy. It's about pushing yourself to the point where learning is a constant challenge, where you're always improving and striving for excellence. It's not about putting in hours and hours of mindless repetition, it's about working with purpose, learning from mistakes, and constantly seeking ways to improve. Deliberate practice isn't easy, but it is the most effective way to accelerate your learning. Through focused effort, constant feedback, consistent action, and a willingness to confront weaknesses, you will see the kind of rapid improvement that most people can only dream of. One of the most powerful ways to learn something fast is by immersing yourself in it. The more you expose yourself to the subject or skill you're trying to master, the quicker you will absorb and internalize the information. Immersion involves fully engaging with the material, surrounding yourself with it, and being constantly involved with it in some way. When you immerse yourself in a subject, you don't just passively consume information, you actively live and breathe it. This creates a deeper connection and a faster pathway to understanding. Immersion works because it forces your brain to adapt. When you immerse yourself in a new language, for example, you are constantly hearing it, speaking it, and thinking in it. The brain starts to associate words, sounds, and concepts more naturally because they are now part of your daily environment. The same principle applies to any skill or knowledge you want to acquire. The more you interact with the material, the quicker it will become second nature. The immersion method works because it takes advantage of the brain's ability to adapt through repeated exposure. The more often you engage with the subject, the more connections your brain makes, and the faster those connections form into a working knowledge base. However, immersion requires a commitment of time and energy. It's not enough to simply skim the surface. You have to make an effort to surround yourself with the material constantly. This doesn't mean you need to be engaged 24/7, but the more time you spend, the faster you will learn. Whether it's reading articles, watching videos, attending workshops, or even engaging in conversations about the topic, the key is continuous interaction. It's about creating a rhythm in your life where the subject becomes a constant companion, something you are consistently thinking about and engaging with, even when you're not actively trying to learn. This constant engagement will keep the subject fresh in your mind and deepen your understanding over time. Immersion also enhances your ability to retain information. When you're immersed in a subject, your brain is constantly processing the new information you encounter. Because it's something you're exposed to frequently, you're more likely to remember it. For example, if you are learning a new language, you are hearing the words used in context, seeing the words in writing, and using them in conversation. This multi-sensory approach helps to solidify the information in your memory. The more senses you involve in the learning process, the deeper the information is rooted in your brain. This constant reinforcement makes it easier for the brain to retrieve that information when you need it. The key to successful immersion is making the experience as comprehensive as possible. Don't limit yourself to just one mode of learning. Combine multiple strategies, read books, watch tutorials, practice regularly, and seek out people who can help you improve. When you immerse yourself in different ways, you get a more well-rounded understanding of the material. For instance, when learning a new skill, you might read about it, watch instructional videos, and then practice what you've learned. These multiple avenues of learning enhance your ability to absorb and apply the material quickly. Another important aspect of immersion is the opportunity it provides for learning in context. When you surround yourself with the subject, you start to see how it fits into the larger picture. This understanding of context allows you to make connections and apply the knowledge in real-world situations. Learning in context accelerates your understanding because it brings the material to life. It stops being abstract and theoretical and becomes something practical, something you can use. For example, immersing yourself in a new technology by using it in real-world scenarios makes the knowledge stick in a way that simple textbook learning can't match. However, immersion can also involve stepping out of your comfort zone. To truly immerse yourself in a subject, you need to be willing to make mistakes, to fail, and to learn from those failures. This is where the real growth happens. Immersion forces you to confront the challenges head-on. You can't avoid the struggles, and that's where learning accelerates. Each challenge you encounter teaches you something new, sharpening your skills and understanding. The discomfort you feel during the immersion process is part of the learning journey. It's a sign that you're pushing yourself beyond what you already know, expanding your boundaries and making real progress. Moreover, immersion brings a level of engagement that passive learning simply can't provide. When you're immersed in something, you're not just going through the motions, you're actively seeking to understand it, engage with it, and integrate it into your life. You begin to ask deeper questions, seek out additional resources, and challenge your own assumptions. This active engagement speeds up the learning process because you're not just absorbing information, you're interacting with it in a way that forces deeper understanding. Ultimately, immersion is about making the subject a part of your life. The more you live with the material, the faster it becomes ingrained in your memory and your skill set. Whether you're learning a language, a musical instrument, or a new technology, the more you immerse yourself in it, the more natural it will feel. Immersion connects you to the material in a way that traditional methods simply can't. It's an active, dynamic, and powerful way to speed up the learning process. Through consistent engagement, a multifaceted approach, and a willingness to fail and learn from those failures, immersion allows you to learn not just faster, but in a way that truly sticks. One of the most essential strategies for learning fast is the ability to maintain a focused mindset. When you're learning something new, distractions can easily derail your progress, making the process slower and less efficient. Maintaining focus is not just about staying in one place or not allowing your mind to wander, but about creating a mental environment that encourages deep, uninterrupted engagement with the material. Focus is the foundation upon which all the other strategies for fast learning are built. Without it, the effort you put into learning will yield fewer results. To maintain focus, it's crucial to first eliminate distractions. This is often easier said than done, but it's a necessary step if you want to retain information quickly. Physical distractions, such as noise or interruptions, can be managed by choosing an optimal study environment. Find a quiet space where you can concentrate and set clear boundaries for your learning time. Let others know that you need to focus, and put away anything that could pull your attention away, such as your phone or unnecessary devices. In today's digital age, the temptation to check social media or respond to messages can quickly derail your concentration. By eliminating these distractions, you create an environment where your mind can truly engage with the task at hand. Mental distractions can be harder to manage, but they are just as important to address. If your mind is cluttered with worries, anxiety, or stress, it will be nearly impossible to focus on learning. Mental clarity is essential for absorbing new information quickly. This is where mindfulness techniques can play a role. Practicing mindfulness, whether through deep breathing exercises, meditation, or simple awareness of your thoughts, can help clear mental clutter and improve your focus. These practices don't just calm the mind, they train it to remain present and focused on the task at hand. If you find yourself drifting off during a study session, take a moment to refocus and bring your attention back to the material. To enhance focus, it's also important to set specific goals for your learning session. Having a clear objective provides a sense of direction, and it helps keep your mind from wandering. When you approach learning with a purpose, your focus sharpens because you know exactly what you're trying to achieve. Whether it's mastering a specific concept, completing a set of practice problems, or learning a new skill, having clear goals allows you to direct your mental energy toward achieving them. Break larger tasks into smaller, more manageable objectives. By doing so, you create a roadmap for your learning journey, which makes it easier to stay on track and avoid distractions. Focus also requires a certain level of mental stamina. Learning something quickly isn't just about short bursts of concentration, it's about maintaining that concentration over time. This is why it's crucial to manage your energy levels. If you push yourself too hard, your attention will start to wane, and the quality of your learning will suffer. Instead, work in intervals, taking regular breaks to recharge. The Pomodoro technique, for instance, involves working for 25 minutes followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 sessions, you take a longer break. These intervals help sustain your focus by preventing burnout. By working in short bursts, you maintain a high level of mental engagement, which results in more efficient learning. Another aspect of maintaining focus is making the learning process engaging. The more enjoyable and stimulating the learning process is, the easier it is to stay focused. If you're struggling with something that feels tedious or overwhelming, your mind will naturally begin to wander. Finding ways to make the material interesting, whether by connecting it to your personal interests, using interactive tools, or challenging yourself, helps maintain focus by keeping you engaged. When you find enjoyment in the process, you're more likely to stay concentrated and retain the information more effectively. Additionally, taking care of your body plays a crucial role in maintaining mental focus. The brain is a physical organ, and its ability to concentrate is directly linked to your overall physical health. Ensure that you get enough sleep, eat nutritious food, and stay hydrated. Lack of sleep, for example, can impair your ability to concentrate and negatively affect memory. Exercise, too, can enhance focus by improving blood flow to the brain and reducing stress. When your body is in peak condition, your mind follows suit. You'll find that maintaining focus becomes easier when you take care of your physical well-being. A powerful method to improve focus is to actively practice it. Focus, like any other skill, can be trained. Start by dedicating a small amount of time each day to strengthening your focus. Set aside a period for deep, undistracted concentration on a single task. Gradually increase the length of time as your ability to focus improves. By making this practice a regular part of your routine, you condition your brain to become more resilient to distractions. Over time, you'll find that you can maintain a higher level of concentration for longer periods. To truly accelerate your learning, it's important to make focus a habit, not just an occasional practice. Learning to maintain focus is a skill that becomes more refined with time and consistency. When you make a habit of staying focused, the effort required to concentrate decreases, and the results become more profound. When focus becomes second nature, learning happens faster and more effectively.